new study has shed light on the daily struggles faced by female-headed households in rural South Africa, particularly in provinces like the Eastern Cape and Limpopo. The research finds that limited access to clean water, proper sanitation, and reliable energy is directly linked to food insecurity in these communities. Without these basic services, women are unable to grow and store food effectively, cook safely, or maintain the health and well-being of their families. The study suggests that closing these infrastructure gaps could significantly improve food production, nutrition, and long-term resilience in rural areas. I'm now joined by Professor Adrino Mazenda, one of the lead researchers behind the study, to talk to us about what needs to change and how South Africa's G20 presidency could be a turning point in supporting rural women and tackling hunger at its roots. Prof, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this morning. So you used statistics from the 2022 South African General Household Survey, and you looked at how water and sanitation influences food security. And your study, your sample, included over 2,000 female-headed households in some of those poorest communities. What really stood out for you with this research?
So what stood out in this research was that, good morning to our viewers. First, I have to greet them, and yourself, Katlego. So what stood up in this research, it was targeting female-headed household, like let's say women-headed household. So in those ones who are the agrarian ones, those who are practicing agriculture. So it was a sample targeting on those, because we know that those households mostly those ones who don't practice agriculture, they are mostly vulnerable. So we wanted to see those ones who are practicing agriculture, how vulnerable are they? So our sample was so specific onto those kind of households, right? And so what stand out for our study was that the research found that households with improved water sources, like taps, like pipe taps, and also access to bores in their homesteads, they had got experience better food security outcomes, but also frequent water interruptions left women struggling. They often need just enough to wash themselves, but not enough to cook meals or water their crops. So this forced them some to walk a long distance to fetch water in the taps, those communal taps which are there. And we also found that households with flush toilets or ventilated or improved toilet latrines, pit latrines, had better food security outcomes than those without. So this issue whereby households are deprived in terms of sanitation, it increases issues of waterborne diseases and also other diseases, which reduces household members' ability to work, to grow crops, and also to prepare food safely. So all those kind of things affect also the food security outcomes. And also energy access, which was critical in improved food security for those who had access. But also there was deprivation, because you can see that most households, though sometimes there were initiatives for them to have electricity, but most of them do not have, and also maybe the means or the money for topping up electricity, you know. And also, so electricity is good because it enables safe food storage, cooking and preservation, reducing spoilage. So this has got all to do with the component of food security, which is nutrition. So these were some of the outstanding key findings.
Right. So, Prof, I mean, if we look at the broader socioeconomic and policy implications and beyond the food production and storage, how do water and electricity shortages just affect other aspects of these women's economic and social livelihoods within these communities?
So water is critical, because you can see that for this water, if you want to compare these households with those in the urban areas, yes, in the urban areas, there might be some provisions from the municipalities, etc. But in these rural areas, if there's no water, because most of these households, they have got their water from the rain. So it's more like rain-fed systems, and they do rain harvesting, where they keep some containers to gather water. And so we talk more of issues of climate change, and let's take, for example, looking at areas like Eastern Cape, where before even we talk of climate change, it was also critical that it was difficult also for issues of rain. You know, those issues we have been talking about, even we talk about Port Elizabeth, the issues of drought. So based on that, you can see that water is critical in terms of household survival. So we are not talking of survival livelihoods here. It's more than, of course, food security in terms of now our nutrition, also access. It also is also critical because all the livelihoods, let's say we're talking of crop production, animal rearing, etc. and so forth, all depends on water. So it's critical that we can have water to improve the livelihoods of the households. So, and also when it comes to the energy part, electricity. So without electricity, it actually incapacitates households to be involved in other activities where electricity is involved. However, we can see that there's also limited issues of there's no limited or less government intervention in terms of the solar systems. The houses they don't afford. So we can see that electricity energy, even if its energy is available, but you cannot use that energy for crop production or other issues because it becomes expensive.
Right.
Therefore, that is whereby we need other intervention and policies that speak more on these renewable energy systems and also this involvement of communities.
And the key policy gaps, Prof, especially at local and national levels that fail to address the intersection of water, electricity and food security for these households, what would you say those are?
So if you look at the local municipal level, right? So let's talk about, before we talk about issues of policy implementation and etc. Let's talk about the willingness of those the office bearers, let's say the councillors, their involvement, and also the communities. So we can see that the local policies are at the local level. Sometimes there was a challenge in implementation, sometimes of accessibility. Let's talk, for example, we see that it's difficult to access these areas because of infrastructural challenges. So based on that, it is difficult, an issue of implementation of policies. Though the government has come up with a lot of initiatives and a lot of other policies on food security and also these water governance issues that try by all means to address these gaps. But you can see that there are other issues, corruption also involved, and also issues of infrastructure, like what I've said. So these also affects the ability to achieve these outcomes. And also there's weak coordination between local municipalities and national departments. And also there's a limited involvement of women in the policy design. Right, so these are some of the critical issues that affect these issues of the policy gaps at the national level and the local level.
And I think I really just wanted to ask in terms of that central role that women should be playing, and how can they be empowered to participate in some of those decision-making structures?
So sometimes the best way is to train these women, right? So I think there should be structures which should be implemented. So there can be public-private partnerships, NGOs can come through. We have seen our World Youth Organization and some international organizations that have been helping in communities. So I think there are some times where there's need to address that gap through various stakeholders to empower women, also give them things like microcredit, also train them in also these AI issues and all aspects to do with crop production. So, and also these support initiatives, loans, etc. and so forth.
And do you think that the G20 summit that's set to take place later this year will be able to give practical resolutions, especially for those women within those vulnerable communities, to be able to see their way through sustaining themselves with regards to food production, water supplies, and the shortage of electricity?
So the G20 by South Africa virtually being part of the G20, you know how the systems work, operates. So we can see that there is a task force for food security and agriculture that they meet to talk about other initiatives that can be done to improve the livelihoods. So by South Africa, so we can see that the institutions like G20, they are not implementers of policies like what WHO can do, FAO can do. So you can see that they can be just lobby organizations that they can help. So we see, let's talk for instance of the issues of climate financing. So the issue of climate change, which is critical. So when the voice is there, and also issues of food trade. So by virtue of being part of G20, it also helps reduce these issues of food trade, which also happens. It also affects the households. Let's say, for example, we empower the women to have to be small-scale farmers and they still want to sell. Let's say they manage to be successful. It will be difficult without a clear food trade initiatives which are there. You have seen what has been happening with the US and the tariffs in the US by virtue of being part of the G20. Then South Africa being there, I think they can be able to lobby. I've been seeing some efforts there to say that one time President Trump was saying he's not coming, and now you see I heard that the vice president might come. So all those kind of initiatives, it might help and might lessen those kind of food trade amongst other initiatives. So that's the part where this G20 being part of, it can also be helpful amongst others.
All right. So, Prof, just lastly, how then can these rural communities themselves build resilience against these issues that they're facing in terms of shortages?
So, for example, there need to be coordinated planning, which can reduce resource waste. So let's say, for example, we trade waste for irrigation, renewable energy for pumping. So it's necessary to have those issues, right? And aligning processes and policies that can prevent overuse of resources and also environmental stress. There should also be aspects like policy alignment in terms of energy policies and water related, right? So that we don't treat them in silos, right? Let's see, because they are all affecting the countries. And we also need to invest in localized solutions like solar powered irrigation, biogas from agricultural residues, and also rainwater harvesting, right? It needs to be done at a higher scale, and also integrated information systems for data monitoring. Let's say, for example, there is infrastructure like these pipes, which can be installed through the irrigation systems, maybe to enhance the water supply. So we can also have, how can we can also have these integrated systems to monitor all these issues. Also capacity building, like training of the farmers and also giving them finance, mostly these women households. I think it can also help for in terms of resilience.
Right.
And also.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Very insightful. And of course, like you mentioned, those integrated resource management approaches are certainly a first step in these communities being able to find themselves out of some of these shortages. Thank you for your time.